to Miriam Cates, a Conservative MP for Penistone and Stocksbridge in South Yorkshire. Welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. What is your reaction to going into Tier 3?
Well, I think this is a position that none of us wanted to be in. It's really hard news for people all over the region who are weary of lockdown, who are suffering economically, suffering from the deprivation of relationships with family and friends. But the truth is, as Dan Jarvis said, that this is a dangerous and serious situation. And the NHS isn't overwhelmed, but we're starting to be at the point where that could feasibly happen. And so we need to act now to make sure that the NHS can cope with the rise in coronavirus cases, but can also continue to offer normal services. So it's very important that we do act now. And whilst it is disappointing news, I think there are two really important things to remember. Firstly, there's now a new package of financial support that's coming out for local authorities, for businesses, to enhance track and trace and enforcement. So that is good news. And I want to pay tribute to Dan Jarvis and his team and all the local leaders for acting so collaboratively on this. But also, there is a 28-day review period. And so I think we all need to make sure that we are following the rules, that we're not mixing between households, that we are following the national guidance as well, because the next 2 weeks are crucial. If we can bring the rates down, if we can start to see a downturn in admissions to hospital, then after that 28 days, we do have the possibility of coming out of Tier 3, which I think is a really important message for people to hear.
In terms of the negotiations on the financial package, the leader of Rotherham Council has said that actually the decision on this could have been done days ago because the government's not shifted on its position in terms of the financial support available. It's following a formula. Is that correct?
Well, I think the package in terms of the per head funding and the support for businesses is on a par with the packages offered to Liverpool and Lancashire and offered to Manchester. But obviously, local leaders know their area best, and it's very important that there have been those in-depth discussions between local leaders and Number 10 and the Department for Health and the Department for Communities to really nail down what it is that South Yorkshire particularly needs, and that will be different from other regions. And it is a balance, isn't it, between acting quickly but also making sure we make the right decisions and get the right settlement. And again, I commend local leaders for keeping us as MPs in the loop and for representing their constituents as well as they possibly can.
So, I mean, just to be clear then on how much divergence there is in terms of the support package available to regions, does it come down to how good the negotiating is, or is there actually not that much difference? Because, I mean, obviously, as you say, it's an important thing that local knowledge is part of this. But that's there whether the government presents local leaders with the financial package that's been arrived at on the basis of a per head amount, or whether they're actually involved in the negotiations. If the money isn't going to change, what's the point? Because it takes time.
Well, it isn't just about money, and I've heard on your programme that talking about whether gyms are open in circumstances. For example, in South Yorkshire, I think the agreement is that leisure centres may remain open, but leisure classes can't. There's a huge divergence between different regions about where the cases are spreading, in what particular areas of towns and cities, among which age group, and these are all things that really need to be taken into account on a local level.
But on that, I mean, sorry to interrupt. On that caused real confusion, didn't it? Because there was a ban on gyms opening. Gyms in Liverpool were fined for opening, and now they've been told it's okay because since then there's been an agreement that they can be open elsewhere.
Well, I think the point about targeted local restrictions is that they are local, and so there will be divergence and there will be a difference in regulations and restrictions between the areas. And where that perhaps could seem complicated from a national level, it's important that the guidance is right for each region, that it is targeted. And it's up to us as local leaders and representatives and local people to make sure we're aware of that specific guidance for our own regions and follow that. It's not necessary that it is the same across all regions, but it is necessary that the tiers are correct and the restrictions are right for each individual region.
So was it wrong then for the gyms to be allowed to reopen in Liverpool? Because if initially, presumably, the decision was that they shouldn't be open based on the local evidence that you're talking about?
Well, I'm not a Liverpool MP and I don't know the details of the situation in Liverpool and what's causing the spread. I am a South Yorkshire MP and I am aware of the data in South Yorkshire, and I'm satisfied that the deal that's been done, that the negotiations that have taken place, and that the support package for South Yorkshire is fair and it will really help local residents.
And so on the local data, it's obviously very important. It sounds like you've been across every level of the local data, is that right? Because Previously, there was a Conservative MP in Greater Manchester who we spoke to the other day, whose concern was that actually they weren't seeing any of the local data, and that was his problem with it.
Well, I think in South Yorkshire, as I said, there's been a very open and collaborative approach. And I've had lots of calls with Dan Jarvis, with the government, with the Ministry of Health, and all local MPs have been involved with that, where the data at every level has been shared on all those calls. So, you know, the data is a different picture around the region and in different age groups and different reasons for spread. But it certainly has been shared with us as local representatives.
Miriam Cates, thank you very much.
Thank you.